Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I just want to thank everybody for tuning back in. I appreciate all the people that take the time out of their day to just come back and watch all my videos. It really means a lot. And today I'm going to touch on something that occurred at the last tournament that I fished in. I actually made a video about it. It was at Lake Gaston. And I had a deal where I was catching them. I went down a day early. And the Friday before, this time of the year, the spring, it's a big deal is the red crankbait. And I had fished for 3 or 4 hours and hadn't had a bite. So I started changing up baits and finally started getting bit on a Little John MD. That's the bait I was throwing. In practice, I think I caught 6 or 7 fish, which is usually more than I like to catch, honestly, especially the day before. But the thing was, once I caught a couple and figured it out, I was able to go across the lake, around the lake, just about anywhere. And when I saw this particular type, the right kind of bank, I was able to catch fish. So I really wasn't catching a lot of fish out of one area. I was just kind of jumping around, which, whenever you can, honestly, it felt like I had gotten onto a pattern, because it wasn't just one particular part of the lake I could catch fish this way. I could move around and catch them anyway. Long story short, the morning of the tournament, about my 4th cast, I busted the lip off. And this was the only one of these I had in this color. I didn't have any more of them this color. The day before, when I was experimenting with crankbaits, I was throwing one this is called, I believe, Fire Craw. Very bright red with a little bit of black and a crawfish pattern on it. The day before, I had tried this color called Rayburn Red, which was almost like an orange and black on top, but it was gold on the bottom. Could not get bit on it. On Saturday morning, after I did this, I took the Rayburn Red out, and I took red Sharpie permanent marker, and it's real important with these to get the chisel point, because that's a lot easier because of the shape of the marker, the point, to color with. And I took the Rayburn Red and I colored the bottom of it and the sides as red as I could get it, and I let it lay on the deck and dry for a second. And you'd be surprised, these markers actually hold up pretty good in the water. Even, sometimes after 3 or 4 hours, you got to touch them back up. I fished with this bait as it was for like 15 minutes, didn't get a bite. I took it and I painted it, colored it red with this marker, and within 4 casts, I caught my first keeper. This comes back to another one of them things where people say color doesn't matter. It's more about the action of the bait. That may be the case. But one thing that anyone who fishes is going to tell you is whatever you got the most confidence in, if you've had a good experience with something, if you've made a change in the past and immediately after you made that change, boom, you catch a fish, that's confidence. It instills confidence in what you're doing. And it don't matter what nobody else is throwing. It don't matter what nobody else says. In your mind, you put that confident point there that color change or what you did was successful in the past. You need to do that again. There have been times in the past where I have done similar things, such as this, and it helped me catch just one more fish, or it saved the day and helped me catch a few fish. So I want to touch on how having these different kinds of things that you can add quick color modification to your baits during the course of the day can actually be a big deal. But this worked out for me. I didn't win the tournament, but I caught a limit to weigh just under 11 pounds. And not having this bait, this color, and then just doing what I could to come as close as I could to what this color, matching it as best I could with my marker, I think that had something to do with the fish I caught. Now there was one other bait, this Black Label bait, I also caught some of my keepers on. But the big deal was red and orange, and it was also a certain type of bank. The fish were not on steep banks at all, which was kind of a little off from what you would have expected, because the Friday before, I think the high temperature was like 55. Well, a front came through Saturday morning as we were about to take off. The wind really got up, and the temperature actually dropped through the day on Saturday. But the water temperature in the first area I went to hadn't dropped at all. It had dropped a couple of degrees at the ramp, but not where I wanted to start the day, tournament day off. So it didn't affect those fish, and they were on flatter banks. Even as the temperature dropped throughout the day, they were not on steep banks, at least not for me. Everything I caught was on a flatter bank, and a lot of the fish were a lot more shallower than you thought they would have been in, say, 48 to 47 to 49 degree water, almost touching 50, but not quite on tournament day. So the color modification helped. Now, when you're talking about modifying baits on the fly, you're not talking about getting this picture perfect finish like guys, you see them, they do that awesome stuff with the spring. You know, I've seen guys do that, and that's a skill in itself. What you're talking about doing is taking a permanent marker, and like whenever you can get the Sharpie chisel point, they are the easiest ones. The round point and the little fine markers, I ain't saying you can't do it with those. These just work the best, and it's easier to color the baits up. I use these. This is only 5 colors I use. I keep them on the boat all the time: red, black, orange, green, and blue. You also have these. These are the spike it markers. I keep orange and chartreuse and the red and chartreuse all the time. Red and orange are 2 colors that I add to baits probably most often. Whenever I can fish and add red to anything I'm throwing, I usually try to find a way to do it. Again, that's a confidence thing. Some people think that might be nonsense. You know, I'm putting too much thought into it. It works for me. I got confidence in it. I've seen too many times. Every crankbait I throw has got a red hook on the front. Whenever I can add red to anything I'm throwing, there's different ways I find over the years to do that, from skirt color to trailers, to add to a chatterbait or a spinnerbait, to these are just a couple of baits that some of them are baits that I just colored up just for this. Sometimes on a shad, and this one's got a broken lip also. I need to work on my casting, then I won't be bringing so many lips on crankbaits. But a lot of times on my shad colors, I will just add red to the throat and a little red on the tail. It's just something I do. Getting back to the different ways you can color things. There's dyes. I showed you the pens I use. JJ's Magic is really good. You know not to spill none of this in your boat best you can. Actually, what I do is I got this Tupperware. I keep it on my boat. Keep some Q-tips in it. I keep all my dyes in it, and I just use the lid to color stuff. I'll take the lid off. I'll show you exactly how to go about this. And I'll lay the lid down, and you can see I'll color inside of it. Keep some paper towels in there too, just in case I make a mess. But you really want to try not to spill this stuff in your boat, because it'll mess up your carpet. If you're fishing out of a kayak, you may not care as much. If you're fishing off of the bank, you know, that's a different situation in itself. But the JJ's Magic is really good, the chartreuse. This is something I found a few years ago. It's also made by Spike It. And this is called Electrochrome Blade Dip. And this stuff is really good for, let me show you one. If you're trying to color a spinnerbait blade, this is just a chrome spinnerbait blade. I'm going to dip it in here. And I'm not going to color the whole thing because I just want you to see. It's about to drip. But you can just color the blade. Now, you know, in muddy water, sometimes in the spring, orange or red blade on a spinnerbait, you know, again, that's something that might get you an extra bite or two. But this red dye, this Spike It, again, it's called Electra Chrome Blade Dip. I have also taken it with a Q-tip and I have colored the throat of baits with it before. It works real good on crankbaits. This is not made for the plastics. It doesn't work the same on the plastics as the other Spike It does. This is the regular Spike It, and this is black. And I'm going to show you, let me show you real quick what I do with that. You know, sometimes you get on a bite with plastics. Sometimes they just want black and blue. Sometimes well, if you just need to modify a bait, if you've got a bunch of baits, say one color, and you get into a situation where the water's muddy, and you need to, you know, I could really use some black in this bait, and I don't have any. You just take this and you dip the whole bait in, or as much of it as you want to dip in. And I got this on an old table, a work table I got, so I don't care about it dripping or nothing. And you went from all blue to black and blue. And you can dip that bait as far down in there as you want. If you want to go all the way down to it's just the tips of the tails are blue. But there's been many a time that I've modified a plastic. Sometimes you just need all black and you don't have it. With that black dye, you can modify and change colors of plastics and go to black and blue, black and chartreuse, you know, whatever it is you're trying to do. With that black dye, you can do it. So I've showed you the red, I've showed you the JJ's Magic, and the black I use a lot. Another thing I've colored with in the past is a lot of times on jig heads and stuff. Good old slider head that we talked about before. I'll take the red nail polish and I painted the heads of the slider heads red. Now, the red thing, I think maybe, you know, especially in clear water in the summer and stuff, I like to keep the red on too. Red's a color, I think it's almost like black. I think they can see it good in muddy water as well. But when clear water, I want that red. I just want it on my bait somewhere. And that's another way I can do it. Wu Tungsten makes red tungsten sinkers. And sometimes on my Texas rig, I'll tell myself, you need some red up there, and I'll get a red tungsten sinker and I'll put it up there. And again, it's just a confidence thing. Let me show you a couple of and I know I'm jumping around, but you know, this stuff is kind of like spur of the moment things. Like, as soon as the other day when I broke this lip off of this bait, it took a few minutes and I was like, you know, there's been times in the past, you just take a marker, you color a bait up, if you don't have another one just like it, boom, you start catching fish again. Excuse me. So that's, again, it worked in the past, confidence, and a lot of this stuff with color is just a confidence thing to me. So that's why I go about it the way I do. Let me show you some of the another idea. If you're somebody who, say you're a bank fishing, pond fishing, somebody that's fishing on a budget. I'm always fishing on a budget. I don't have the biggest boat. I don't have the best equipment. I have the stuff that I feel like I can use for me to fish and get the job done. Have a good time on the water, and when I'm fishing a tournament, still be competitive. It's just the way I look at it. I don't go overboard with things. My fishing is pretty basic. I do try new techniques, new things that I think help me put more fish in the boat. But whenever I can save a little money, that's what I try and do. I will go to Academy, Walmart, Bass Pro. You know how they always had the bait bins out? This is just a $2 rattle bait that I got at Academy. This is the color that it comes in. It's just a Tennessee shad. I took the hooks off because I didn't want to try to hold these things with the hooks on them and hook myself. This is what it looks like after I modify it with the red and orange. And I'm like, I went from Tennessee shad, if you buy 2 or 3 of them, say, Tennessee shad. Now you got you red, orange rattle bait to throw in the spring, catch some fish on it, or the hooks start to, leave the marks on it that they do around the hook hangers and split rings. You color it back up again. Is it a $10 crankbait from a company that's got the fancy finish on it? No. Is it a crankbait that'll catch you a fish? Yes, it will. I know because I caught them on. These are some others. This was just a Tennessee shad. I think this is a 6XD or 3XD. I forget which one it is. But it's a Strike King. I don't know how many fish I've caught with this thing. I colored it red, a little black on top, orange. Put my red hook on the front, which I need to change because that one's about had it. Again, is it as pretty as the store-bought with the good finish? No. Now these two, I don't know how many fish I've caught with these, and I'm sure they still make them. This is a Spro Fat John. Both of these were like a shad color, and the finish really wore off of them fast. I'm not sure why, because I've never had trouble with Spros before. Long story short, I just painted them up, took them, put the red, orange, put the black. I had somebody that I knew that sprayed a lot of baits, did custom stuff for people. Tell me one time that breakup is important sometimes when you're coloring. And he just told me whenever you can add black, like marks on the side, to break up the pattern of the color of the bait, that was a good thing. Now, this guy painted baits for people, so I'm pretty sure he knew what he was talking about. And so I took him, and I had caught fish with both of these. These are old Fat Johns, and I just orange and red, black magic marker, color them up, touch them up every now and then. I catch fish with them. Here's another one that I showed you about the shad. Color Tennessee shad, sexy shad. I just like to add red on the throat, red on the tail. This is a little rattle bait I bought at Bass Pro. It's just a chrome. And don't think those $1.99 crankbaits don't catch fish, because they do. Now, I ain't going to say that they're going to catch with some of the other baits, but if you're somebody that is a pond fisherman, or somebody, like I said, is fishing on any kind of budget, don't be afraid to buy these baits. This is how it came, and I added a little bit of blue and chartreuse and red to the other side just to show you how I would, and it'll catch fish. It'll catch fish. I remember when I first started fishing and I was doing ponds, and I used to carry my tackle bag around with me. Even then, I kept markers in it to change baits on, because when you don't have a lot of different baits to choose from, and you don't have a chartreuse, or you don't have a red or an orange crankbait, and you're fishing in a pond, you know how ponds can tend to be, one day they might be pretty clear, and the next day you get there and it's all muddied up, and you need a different color, and you don't always have it. I have chatterbaits. I have colored the skirts on chatterbaits. I often color the chrome blade black. The only time I keep my blade chrome on a chatterbait, and again, this is just me, is during the shad spawn. Any other time of the year, almost always I color them black. Almost always. Always just try and color them black. I keep them gold. The gold ones I don't color because I use those in tannic water, in the river, stuff like that. But anytime and spinnerbait blades, same thing. I colored some red, like I said, with the blade dye that I got. I colored them orange with a orange permanent marker. You know, you can make modifications as you go. The dye markers, they come in handy for quick modification, but they don't always leave as much color as you would like. If you've ever used, I'm sure most of you, a lot of you probably used the dyes with the chartreuse for your plastics. But JJ's Magic, I mean, Spike It. It doesn't take much of anything to, you know, just like that. You've got a chartreuse tail on your Zoom, small Zoom swimming fluke. A lot of times I'll use that for a spinnerbait trailer. Different things you can use it for. There's so many different kinds of plastic you can use for different things. You know, I've taken the skirt off of a chatterbait and just put up there and done well on certain days with that. You can do it with even with your stick baits, you know, however much of the tail you want. In the spring, you hear a lot of people say with green pumpkin, especially in watermelon. Spring is when a lot of the bluegill and stuff, the colors really start to come in, and you can add this to the tail of green pumpkin or watermelon, because a lot of the bluegill, perch, they start to get that. If you notice, if you bluegill fish at all, they'll start to get that green tint on their tail, and you can, like the night before, dye maybe 6, 8, 10 worms, creature baits, crawls, whatever it is you're fishing with, and you can have them ready for the next day, or you can do it on the fly. I usually, if I know it's a color I'm going to be using a lot the next day, I try to do them the night before. Again, this is just stuff that, in some ways, sometimes it will save you a little money, changing crankbait colors, not having to, you know, if that's what you're looking to do. And if you're a guy that fishes tournaments, it's a way, just like what happened to me last Saturday on the fly, you can make an adjustment to something if you run out of a bait, or you just got to make a modification to a bait to get you through the day, because it's just something that comes in handy. You can do it with plastics, you can do it with crankbaits, you can do it with spinnerbaits. This is a chatterbait, and it's been a while ago since I did this, but this was pretty red and orange skirt. Before they ever came out with the chatterbaits, you know, when they first came out with the chatterbaits, then for a while, nobody got into the red and orange on the chatterbait. I just took a skirt one day and I just dyed it as best I could, red and orange. One of the last videos I did, someone commented and asked me to show a bait again. So this is that bait that they requested, and this is the Strike King Rage Tail, the Space Monkey. I had talked about this bait because I often use this instead of a lizard now, especially for the spawn, during the spawn, and even after. It's a big creature bait. It moves a lot of water. The appendages have the big cups on the tail and on the arms, and it's just it's a real good creature bait for me in the spring. And I didn't give a really good view of it, so I'm trying to, hopefully this is a little bit better. But several people commented and asked me if I'd show that bait again, but that's the Space Monkey. I think that's it as far as what I want to go over in this in this video. I'm sorry. Confidence is such a key part of fishing. And when you have a good experience with something, or you do something on the water, you make a change and it clicks and it works, you need to remember that. That's something that over time, more and more of those experiences add up, and it'll catch you a fish on the day when you really need it, or it'll catch you a fish on the day if you're just out, you've had a bad week at work. To a lot of people, fishing is an escape. And in some ways, as I get older, it's like that for me too. I still like to fish the tournaments. I like being able to figure it out in 8 hours and get my 5 fish limit. That's exciting. That's why I like to fish the tournaments, the competitiveness there. But to some people, just getting out on the water and just getting away from everything that's crazy in this world now, if you can do any of this to help you catch a fish on a day you ain't really had a lot of luck, and you just, man, maybe if I just put a little bit of this on, or if I color this up and change the color a little bit, but I ain't got a lot of stuff to work with, maybe if I just tinker with it, just mess around with it, because I guarantee you, as soon as you do something and it works, and every time it does, it gives you a little bit more confidence in it. That's why, I've always said people don't fish the same. Everybody fishes different. You can send 10 different guys down the same stretch of bank, 10 different anglers, guys, women, whoever. Every one of them is going to fish that stretch of bank different. Everyone's going to look at it different. If you got electronics, because of all the stuff going on with electronics now, everyone's going to take a different approach to it depending on what they got on their boat and what kind of equipment they have to attack the cover or the bank or the conditions with. So try different stuff. Do things to hopefully build confidence on, and it'll help you down the road. I want to thank everybody for watching again today. Thanks for all the subscribes to the channel, all the feedback and comments. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope this helps somebody catch more fish. Hope y'all have a good week, tight lines, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.